Good afternoon and welcome to Have a Chat. I'm Audrey Lynch with my beautiful co-star, Judy Loge. Hello, Judy.
I think that's so cute when she says that.
They don't pay me much to say that either,
well,
right?
Thank you. You too.
Yeah. We have our first guest today. We have such a full packed show for you today that we've got our first guest actually joining us for our quick chat portion of the show. Hello, Natalie.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Thanks
for
for
having me.
Yes, well, thanks for joining us. We don't have Vera with us this morning, but that's okay. You're going to fill in and then tell us all about yourself and your business there, just as soon as we get caught up with what we usually chat about, which is we try to start our day off with a positive quote, which was very neat. But we're actually going to get you to read that. I'm just going to call that up for you because Irish.
And I'm the only
St.
one
Paddy's
dressed
Day's
in
coming
Irish.
up and
My husband bought
very
me this
festive.
4-leaf clover, St. Patrick's clover, so I hope I have good luck always now.
Exactly.
May there always be work for your hands to do. May your purse always hold a coin or two. May the sun always shine on your window pane. May a rainbow be certain to follow each rain. May the hand of a friend always be near you. May God fill your heart with gladness to cheer you. And that's a very common, beautiful
that's an Irish blessing. Yeah, exactly.
So may you all be blessed because St. Paddy's is rolling around.
It is. It is. It falls on a weekend this year, which is a even bigger deal. I think people are getting more excited that they're going to have the weekend off to be able to celebrate their heritage and stuff like that. So
I emceed last night the St. Patrick's concert at St. Michael's Basilica. So there was lots of music and entertainment, and it was fun, and it was wonderfully attended, and all was well.
Beautiful. So how did you all fare with the time change over the weekend?
I'm exhausted.
We have now sprung forward, and everybody lost an hour.
And my bags are the telltale signs because I read until all hours, and then I don't sleep well, and then the time change does affect me.
Well, someone actually put on Facebook, why doesn't that, when we spring forward, why doesn't it happen on Friday afternoon at like 3?
We have time to
Which,
adjust.
yeah, exactly. You have the whole weekend to kind of thing. That would have been nice.
And Natalie Newman, you're just getting back from a trip.
I actually have a 2-hour time zone that I'm adjusting
Trying to.
Yeah, I just got back last night, actually.
Well, great that you could be here on short notice then.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. So you're Natalie Newman Forrest, and you are a travel agent through Marlin Travel. So tell us a little bit about yourself first.
All right. So, I had actually taken my course many years ago. I'm going to say 25 plus.
Wow.
I had taken a tourism and hospitality course at Olton's way back in the day.
Oh, okay.
And, I worked in the industry for a little while at the university at UNB. They had a travel agency there. And I did it for a couple of years, and then I decided that I wanted to go back to school and be a nurse because back then, working as a travel agency, you had to work as an employee. Okay. So starting out was quite difficult. Even though I loved doing it, it just was difficult to, to become
get into the field and do well.
Right. So I went back to school, and I was there for 3 years, and then I had decided, I don't think I want to be a nurse.
That's okay. People are allowed to change their career mind.
So it was just always my passion. When I was 15, I used to go to relatives in St. John, and they were involved in a community with Baha'i faith. So they always had different cultures around them, and I was always interested in learning different languages and culture and their food. And so I always had just a natural draw towards tourism,
travel and seeing the world.
Yeah, so what not better way to do it than
to be
in
the
industry? That's right.
Yes,
yeah. So I've been. I went into a local agency and I worked there. I just asked if I could work there free for a little while because I was out of the industry for about 3 years, and they just kept me on. And then I eventually went out on my own, and I've been 15 years in business. I have a franchise. Actually, we have 2 franchises, soon to be 3. It's Marlin Travel,
very popular one.
Yeah. We're located in Miramichi, St. John, and we have a little satellite office in Moncton, right at the airport.
Now, this is a franchise you've created.
Actually, Marlin Travel is the largest leading travel agency across Canada.
It is.
Yeah, with over 300 offices across Canada. And we're the only Marlin East Montreal.
Busy girl.
Yeah. We're part of the Air Miles loyalty program. So if anyone who wants to redeem or earn Air Miles, they can only do it with us or with Air Miles. So
Well,
we're quite large.
We really wanted to have you on the show today, especially this time of year, because it's that time of year. A lot of people have already had one trip and maybe planning another one because we're into March. We're gearing up for another big nor'easter, I'm afraid, in the next couple of days.
Yay, I know.
So
that
if you
excites
haven't
me
booked a
too.
trip already, you're
I actually
probably
am
going
excited about
to.
it.
You're probably going to within the next 24, 48 hours. So we wanted you to give us some advice on everything we've been hearing because things are different and there's a lot more to it. And there's just some key points that I'd love for you to touch on and let us know how it all works.
Right. So you mean about the booking process?
So to book, some people are booking online as opposed to calling a travel agent. Let's start with that.
Okay, and I think that's a really good place to start because that's a really big thing, and that's my message that I try to advocate to everyone.
Okay.
Whether you book online or with an agency, you're going to pay the same price.
Okay.
The most that you would ever pay at a travel agency is sometimes we have professional fees, and they're very nominal.
Okay.
And we waive them a lot because we want you to see the value in what we do.
What you offer.
So what we can research, we can do in 15 minutes. It might take you 6 hours. There has been stats. We are always learning these things through our franchises. That's one of the great things about being a part of such a large company.
Exactly. That's just it.
So yeah, and it's all integrity pricing. Again, whatever you see on the internet, you're going to see with us, and then we're going to be able to add more value with our product knowledge. We have very well-trained agents on our team. And of course, with the Air Miles, being a part of Air Miles is, one of the largest loyalty programs. And
it is.
I always say it's the really smart people who take advantage of.
It's a real draw.
It really is. It's like a game, and you want to
Yeah.
maximize that on as much as you.
That's the
you
way
can.
I have a credit card has a travel. It's not necessarily Air Miles. There's other travel programs that are out there through credit cards and different venues that you can get discounts and money back towards your trip. Definitely huge deal.
Yeah, so it definitely is a big draw. So you can redeem Air Miles with us, just the same like you can redeem out of your cash account, you can redeem out of your Dreams account, and it's just as good as cash.
Okay.
So
Let's just jump right into some of the popular destinations that, families that want to go on their little trip together, maybe a mom and dad with 3 children, they would go into you, and depending on their budget, you would give them advice as to the best hotels. Can you discuss how a family trip would work?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people seem to think whenever they travel, the less amount of time that they're going to go away for an all-inclusive trip, for example.
Right. Which is the most popular.
Which is the most popular. They might sometimes think just a 4 or 5 day might be all that they can afford. But the reality is packages are based on 7 nights or 14 nights. So if you're going to go for 7 nights, it's going to be less expensive than doing
5 or 9.
us breaking it as an a la carte and doing 5 or yeah. And so
so say they're going to Jamaica. All right, and they would sit down with you and you would give them options for various hotels and prices and safety components to the different hotels, etc.
Yes, absolutely. So the information is always available to us where we're going to give you the total complete price, including all taxes and fees. There's no surprises. If there's some departure taxes that you have to pay before leaving the country that you're visiting, we're going to give you that information. So again, there's no surprises. And then whenever you go to an all-inclusive resort, if you see something online and it's coming up 4-star and it's the least expensive and you're thinking, wow, I'm going to go to this 4-star because it's the cheapest that's out there, and you're thinking 4-star has got to be a great hotel.
Right.
But the reality is often there's differences in prices that can vary $100, $300 between the least expensive 4-star and the more expensive 4-star. But the reason,
why is that?
Well, that's the thing. It could be that it could be the age of the resort. It could be the renovations might be very tired and old. It could be that your beds are boxy and the rooms are just not
the
quality.
So the rating itself can change. It's not because you guys have traveled and you'd have agents that have visually seen these places and researched it to why this is a 4-star and this is the price and this is a 4-star and it's better.
And that's why it's really good to talk to a professional because we're going to tell you this 4-star that you're going to is the least expensive. This one here, you're getting far more value because if you take the $200 and the difference and divide it by 7 nights, you're going to be in a cleaner bed. People think they don't spend a lot of time in their rooms, but actually you're sleeping there every night. So
I know.
you need to be comfortable. You need to be in a place where you're going to re-energize yourself.
For sure.
So,
Getting ready there in the daytime to go to dinner
Yeah.
at night or whatever.
Well,
you
see,
spend
that's
time.
what my husband and I had traveled a few times ourselves, and it was always definitely 4-star or better. But when it was time to, and I wanted to take the kids, and money was a little tighter, so I was willing to
Sure.
drop the star
Sure.
rating, but only with the advice from a travel agent,
Right.
knowing that I was still getting a clean
that makes a world of difference.
place. It does. I was
Yeah.
like, yes, I just going to sleep there, but I still had some standards
For
to
sure.
what my room was
You
to
don't
be
wanna
like.
be-
Quality.
That's right. You don't wanna
Because
be
I would think
sleeping
their
on-
regulations are not the same as ours,
that's
right?
exactly what it's like. Like
Okay.
a 4-star in the Caribbean would be different than a 4-star in Canada. A 3-star in Canada, well, I would say most of our hotels are 3 stars.
Yes.
A 3-star in Cuba would be probably equivalent to a 1.5, 2-star in Canada.
Okay.
And then again, from island to island, a
It
4-star in
can change
Cuba would
again.
be different than a 4-star in Dominican. And again, that's why it's important to speak to a
Check.
professional who would be able to give you that information.
You have so much information. You could
No,
answer
that's
just about
just it.
anything, really.
Yeah, it's true.
And you would obviously tell people what they need to travel, their needles, their passports. You advise them as to what they need, their itinerary to have on hand when they arrive there, so they know exactly
Documents.
what
Exactly.
the documents.
You know, for most of the Caribbean islands, if you're holding a valid Canadian passport, that's all you need. In addition to a tourist visa that you often get with your documents, so you're prepaying for that. But someone maybe going to Brazil, you know, would you know that you need a visa to go?
Right.
You know.
And they
or
want to know the
China.
money, the currency, and
Right.
what type of money they
Yeah.
use and all that.
So we can do all of that for you. We can help you get that information. We can direct you if you want to do that on your own. Yeah, and I mean, you don't want to have any surprises.
No.
And if
That
I
won't
get
happen.
over there and have any issues, I can contact you.
Always.
Nice.
That's one of the best things about
That's the
dealing
other
with a
thing
travel
that's-
agency. And of course, this time of year is our busy time. We call it our insane season.
season.
We're really happy.
She
by
says that she
addition,
flew in last
everything.
night.
Yes, after a 4-hour delay. And I had clients that were stuck in Cuba as well because of the
weather?
spin-off from the weather here.
it's been
But it was
bad.
great because they contact us. They don't have to, you know, deal with any long queues. They don't have to try to call
Right.
anyone at home. And typically we'll get a lot of information before they do. So we'll, you know, try to reach them and tell them what to do. And when we don't get that information, they text us.
Right.
So we make
So
that available
exactly.
to our clients that they can text us.
Now, one thing I definitely want to touch on, which is my main reason for having you on today, is I found, because yes, I've traveled this will be my 8th trip in a row during the winter. I feel like there's a lot more warnings and travel advisories this year than ever before.
Yeah.
And when I was looking to book a trip and hunt around, there was just so much going on. Can you touch a little bit on
Trip advisory?
trip advisory and staying safe?
Right, for sure. I mean, that's a big concern. The reality of traveling in today's world is terrorism exists, sickness exists. All of these things can affect our travel. First thing I would like to say is everyone should have travel insurance because you're always protected under travel insurance, like trip
Okay.
cancellation and interruption.
Yeah.
And if you don't purchase it from the agency, you want to purchase or have it on your credit card, for example.
Yes.
For sure.
So with the travel advisories, anytime it's put out on the Canadian government site that says Canadians should not travel to this place, then the tour companies very soon after will say you can cancel your trip and get a full refund,
Okay.
or they'll give you an option to go somewhere else.
Good.
But it has to say on the site, Canadians should not go to this place.
Okay.
So an advisory right now for, you know, on Mexico, for example, it just
Right.
it says adhere to going to Mexico, so practice caution, but it doesn't say Canadians should not go, so you cannot cancel your trip right now
Yes.
at the moment.
Okay, so just quickly, is it due to crime? Is it due to the earthquake situation?
It's
Is
due
it
to crime.
Crime,
In
because
Playa
a lot
del
of
Carmen,
earthquakes there too lately.
there's a lot of earthquakes
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But in Playa del Carmen, that was one of where like recent activity had
Yes.
occurred with some
Yeah.
bombings. And Playa
Yeah.
del Carmen is a very popular place in Mexico when people are going
I almost, but I'm not going to lie, I'm going to Mexico and I almost booked there, but I chose Cancun
Okay,
over
but
that.
this is what I want to say about when you're,
So what
you know,
happens
whenever
there?
you're going to a resort and you're staying at an all-inclusive resort, you don't have anything to worry about. There's usually no concerns about your, you know, your safety.
Right.
And if there are any concerns, the tour companies are not going to allow you to go. They don't want their clients going to an unsafe place. Like they just don't want that clout. No. But safety is the main concern of the tour companies, as it is ours.
Right.
I mean, you know, back when they had the H1N1 virus in Mexico, we had a lot of clients that we actually brought home from Mexico, but it was like working with the tour companies.
Exactly.
They're never going to allow you to go anywhere where it's unsafe. And for example, in Mexico, in Playa del Carmen, they have like cruise ships where you can do an excursion in Cozumel. They're actually, they've canceled that stop. They're not doing that stop now.
I used to do that stop on a cruise ship.
Go on.
So they're, you know, safety is always
So when you said practice like safe practices, is there anything specific that you can say? Like,
yeah, like if you're going to go out on an excursion, book it with your hotel or book it with the tour operator that you're going with, right, in destination, as opposed to meeting someone on the beach, or even at the hotel, maybe they might recommend a cab driver or something.
Yes, yes,
I
they
would
do
caution against doing that now.
Okay.
At one time, I mean, it was, you know, more experience that you're going to get, you know, locally. But now I wouldn't do it that way. I would definitely go through an organized tour operator to book any excursions.
Good to know.
Yeah, and I mean, probably most people are not going to go to Playa del Carmen until it quiets down right now. That's common sense.
no, exactly.
Right?
That's
And traveling
just it.
crowds is good. If it's young women, like say Audrey's daughters are planning a trip, or her friends.
They
together,
are.
stay
I'm a nervous
together.
wreck.
Stay together. And, you
Yeah.
know, like as parents, it's our duty to educate our kids to know, don't leave a drink unattended.
Well, see,
Travel
there's a
in
little bit of
groups.
drugging and people talking a little bit about that and not remembering and waking up and it's just, you know, I feel like that's heightened a little bit.
And on top of that too, like, you know, when these young girls go away, these locals don't necessarily realize how old they are. I mean, I just went to Jamaica with my 16-year-old daughter. Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking for me because she looks like she's in her 20s.
She does.
And,
Very mature-looking girl.
Yeah, and I mean, she had a lot of the locals that were, you know, giving her way too much attention, but I had explained that to her before. I mean, we've been traveling for years together, but it's important to educate our kids, you know, to know right from wrong.
One of my worst experiences has been pickpockets.
Oh, for goodness sakes, really?
Especially over in Europe. So wear a fanny, like a little pack, money belt, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be safe.
That's right.
Because they can get into your purse. I've had that done.
That's right. And if you're going to stand out like a tourist, if you're going to wear anything that's going to draw attention to
jewelry,
it's going to...
We'll have to bring you back to have more on all of this. We want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
On short notice, again,
enjoy
thank you
your
so
travel
much.
experience.
Thank you.
We'll be back
Thank
with
you.
more Have a Chat after the break. Don't go away. We're back with more Have a Chat. Thanks for joining us. We were just chatting with Natalie Newman-Forrest, who is of Marlin Travel, telling us all about how to stay safe and some great places to travel this winter with the next impending storm, I'm afraid. If you haven't booked a trip already, then you might want to give her a call and plan on that. Definitely. We actually have a very interesting and informative guest coming up next. We have Farrell McCarthy. Hello, Farrell. How are you?
Welcome. Welcome to Have a Chat.
Yes, pleased to be here.
Yeah, well, we have St. Paddy's Day is just around the corner, and we thought, and of course, I was going to call you Vero. Judy's definitely wearing all her spirit.
I'm geared up for Irish.
Yeah, and
St.
you're a
Patrick's
very
Day.
passionate Irish historian, I hear. So you've got lots of information to share with us today, and we can't wait to hear it. But first, we're going to start off with you. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Start with my name, Farrell McCarthy, and I grew up in a potato farm near Grand Falls.
Oh, go on.
My parents were of Irish descent on both sides.
Okay.
On my father's side, it was the McCarthys, the McCormicks, and it goes back to a number of generations. My mother's side was McGraths, the McRoys, and their ancestors came to Canada before the famine, which is, before 1845, so it goes back quite a ways.
Yes.
I came to Chatham in 1960, and I went to St. Thomas College, and we were the last graduating class there in '64 before they moved it to Fredericton.
Yes.
I became a teacher the first year in Westfield, the next 2 years in Douglastown, where the Rankin House is.
Oh, yes.
That was Douglastown Elementary School, and I was principal there for 2 years. And then I came up to Harkins Junior High for 29 years as teacher and vice principal.
And what did you teach? History?
History, social studies were my main subjects.
Oh, I see. The students must have been very lucky to have you.
Yes.
Right.
You're such an interesting, well-informed gentleman, and his name is very well known on the river as well.
So how did this all come about?
Well, I tell you what is bred in the bone must out is sort of a saying.
Okay.
And in school, I had a teacher, Sister Mary Margaret. She was a Murphy from Moncton, and I'm sure my interest was there. But she was not only one of my favorite teachers and an English teacher, she also talked about the Irish, her ancestors, from time to time, which made it interesting. So, and then when I was in junior high, senior high, I used to listen to the Irish Hour from Boston.
Okay.
And there was no television, of course, when I was growing up at that time. And I really had a great interest in listening to it. As a matter of fact, one of the ads I can remember, since you're talking about travel agency, is the O'Byrne DeWitt company that was flying people to Ireland from Boston and so forth and away. But there was certainly great music on that for 1 hour each Sunday night. And so anyway, and then I also subscribed to the Irish World and Gaelic American from New York to read up on different Irish things going. So, but I always had something in my background that if you went to a library or if you looked at our textbooks, there was nothing on the Irish in New Brunswick. Even though from 1815 to around 1850, 70% of all the immigrants to New Brunswick were from Ireland. And we're talking about 150,000 people there.
And
so
no
forth.
information.
And no information.
On who they were.
And so forth. And so anyway, I really felt that had to change, that the Irish should be recognized and honored in many different ways.
For sure.
So what I started to do is to, each St. Patrick's Day, I would try to get a hold of all the papers I could in New Brunswick and really see who was talking about Irish culture and interested in things like that. So that kept on for a number of years. And I kept these in a scrapbook. As a matter of fact, I still have the scrapbook. So there were, and St. Patrick's Day was also a great day too. I think I looked forward, in high school and later on, even more so than Christmas.
Celebrating St. Patrick's Day.
Celebrating the day and listening to the music in the morning and things like that in a way. So, so anyway, there were probably 3 people that sort of spurred me on to get an organization going to get some of these things corrected. And one was Alden Nowlin of Fredericton, the poet.
Yes.
And so he had been to Ireland in the 1970s, and when he came back, he wrote articles in the Telegraph on his trip to Ireland. And something he wrote that really, was quite emotional and really struck me. He said he was at events where even some of the people were making fun of the people who were in the Irish famine. And he said, I know my great-great-grandfather or grandmother died eating grass to try to stay alive. Now, during the Irish famine in Ireland, during 1845 to 50, there were 1 million people starved to death. 1 million out of a population of of 8 million, and another million immigrated on coffin ships. And a lot of them, you know, came through the port of St. John. There was something like 40,000 came through there.
So the coffin ship is.
Well, they called
that-
them the coffin ships because they were,
With boxes.
well, there were ships that, you know, took lumber to England and whatnot in a way.
Okay.
And they, for ballast, they helped, I mean, that they brought immigrants back. So they're in terrible conditions in many ways.
Oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, the Lusturk that came into the Miramichi in 1847, it was on its way to Gros Seal near Quebec City, where most of them landed. And it had 450 on board when it left Ireland. 146 died on the way over,
Oh.
so they were thrown overboard.
Oh,
And another, and then they wouldn't allow them to land in Chatham, of course, and so forth. So they were on Meadow Island, and there were, out of those 3 ships that came within a couple months, there were 200 that died on Meadow Island and are buried there.
Gee,
So anyway,
lost a lot of people.
yeah, so he had quite an effect on me. Another one was Dr. Enan McKiernan. He was the head of the Irish American Culture Institute. And what I really liked about that institute is that it was really a culture institute. It put out an academic journal a couple times a year. It sponsored, 25 or 30 high school students to go to Ireland
wow.
to be immersed in the culture, and it did a lot of great things like that. So, and he wrote a lot of great articles. Another person was Joe King. Now, Joe King was from San Francisco, and his ancestors lived on the Miramichi in the 1860s.
Oh, neat.
And but because of the downturn in the economy, the Harricans and Fitzgeralds, they moved on to Maine, Minnesota, and those places to keep on the lumbering. And so anyway, the first time I met him, I saw in the paper where he was coming to St. Michael's Museum to launch his book on his roots on the Miramichi. I didn't know he was here before doing that.
Were you a young teacher at this point?
No, this was about 1982
Okay.
that this happened.
Okay.
So anyway, I went to the museum and met him and so forth in a way. So unfortunate for him, but fortunate to me, he and his wife drove here in a pickup and a camper on the back of the pickup, and the motor went on their vehicle.
Oh,
So I had the thrill of driving him around or
tour guide.
for the week that he was here. And his ancestors grew up on the Williamstown Road, where the Fitzgeralds and the Harricans lived, some of them the Santries. So we went into the woods, and this was about 1860 when they left, and a little bit later, really, in a way, and you could see the stones off the corner of the cabins that they lived in, and the trees were all there. That was very, and whatnot in a way. So he wrote a book on his thing on the Miramichi,
Ireland to North America.
and it's Ireland to North America.
Joseph A. King.
Yeah, Joseph A. King, and it tells about his roots on the Miramichi, and it's a matter of fact, he actually got me to deal with the book here, and I still have a number of copies of the books left, and it's very interesting.
So, pardon me, Farrell, it's not available at the Newcastle or Chatham Library. It's just
Yes, yeah, no,
Oh,
it's
okay.
available in the library too. But if
Okay.
somebody
Nice
wants
to
to get a
know.
copy,
Yeah.
I also have copies of them too. And just a note too, like Bing Crosby's roots are on the Miramichi.
Is that right?
Harrican.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah,
I
and
never
he's a
have known that.
relative.
And
to
he's a
that brother.
relative?
That makes me feel
No,
good.
he's a relative to the Kings and
Yeah.
the
Oh, you're
Fitzgeralds and
kidding.
Harricans.
Bing Crosby.
Bing
Who
Crosby,
would think?
yes.
Now, how can you touch a little bit on his roots here? Because everybody knows who Bing Crosby is.
Well, I can't touch a whole lot on, but the Harricans who live along the river, who are relatives to Bing Crosby, and
That's
so
so
forth.
interesting. You have so
And
much information.
Anyway, there. So, Professor Brendan O'Grady, I had read in a journal off the University of PEI, made this statement: he more or less said that excuse me. For example, the Irish, really had the gift of the gab, and
Yes, I'm
True
True
Irish.
story. True story.
Although-
No comment. We'll leave it all there.
although I must add this to it, part. I was a little bit shy, and I really didn't want to move ahead. And I think it's because with the Irish, to a great extent too, our ancestors came from Ireland, where we were really oppressed, where we really starved to death, where our land was owned by somebody else, and absentee, landowners, British landowners. They had their big homes there. The poor Irish worked on little plots of land. And
Times were tough.
And times
that was the
times were
potato.
very
Really.
That was the famine that you
Yeah,
talked of, the
that was-
potato famine back then.
And when the potato famine, really hit in a way, well, then they were starving to death. Although there was lots of food in Ireland, there was food being shipped by Britain out of Ireland to other countries and things like that. So I don't only look at an Irish famine. I look at it that maybe genocide is too tough.
I was gonna
but-
say,
but,
what-
but it's a little bit between there.
Yeah.
Because
and
the
so
cause
forth.
of it, the cause is where you're leaning towards there, why there was a potato famine in
Yeah,
the first place?
and at first their parliament was taken away from them
Okay.
in 1801, so the Irish never even had a parliament. They had to, go to London, and of course, if you were nationalist native Irish, you couldn't even vote or,
No rights.
don't
No.
like that anyway. So anyway, action had to be taken. So I looked at my scrapbooks, and I got the people that I had,
Lined
thought
up.
I
All
would
your
need.
connections.
Everybody lined up.
I got them together,
Okay.
and we gathered in Moncton, and we formed the Irish Canadian Culture Association of New Brunswick, and it was launched in March 1983. We had a number of goals. One was to do a book on the Irish in New Brunswick, and this is the book that we
Yes.
got done on the Irish in New Brunswick, New Ireland Remembered.
Wow.
Okay.
And the reason why it's called New Ireland Remembered is that New Brunswick was supposed to be called New Ireland.
Oh, you're kidding.
We have Nova Scotia, and we have New England, to our west and so forth in a way. But the Irish weren't too popular with the British establishment, because we were always trying to rebel to get our independence and so forth. So then
Because there's a New Ireland in Albert County,
yeah,
isn't there?
there
Okay.
is, but great to have the province named New Ireland.
It would have.
though. It would have
Yeah.
been.
Yes.
Totally.
The other thing, in August, I was at the Johnville picnic. Now, growing up, we always went to the Johnville picnic. It's a small place in Carleton County, and the reason why it's called New Johnville is that Bishop John Sweeney of St. John. There were a lot of Irish hanging around St. John because there were so many coming in during the famine. So he arranged to bring 600 up to a remote area near Florenceville, although it was out in the woods east of Florenceville, and settled them there. And that became I had relatives in that area, the McElroys and so forth. So that was one of the things we always did. We went to the Johnville picnic.
Yeah.
And their hall, they called it Terror Hall.
Terror Hall?
Terror Hall. And there was all kinds of events going on outside, and it was really a popular thing. But the point I'm trying to make here, it was the 100th anniversary of the Johnville picnic, and Premier Richard Hatfield was there as part of their parade and whatnot. And I had a booth set up with Irish books and also a petition to make Partridge Island a historical site to honor the Irish and whatnot.
right.
So he came over and he mentioned to me that he doesn't I mentioned to him he doesn't sign petitions, which I could understand.
Okay.
But then,
So much information this man has.
I know.
Historian.
so then in October, I got this call. I came home from school. My wife said, Richard Hatfield wants to give him a call. So this was he had one more position for the Bicentennial Commission of New Brunswick to plan our 200th anniversary. So he invited me to go to Fredericton to talk about it and so forth. So
Great
anyway,
honor.
I became a member of the commission.
Huh?
Now, it's fortunate that we had the association established, because if it wasn't for the association, I don't think there would be any of our Irish events taking part in the events that were going to happen. Because
Well, we're actually gonna jump and take a short commercial break, and we're gonna save all this extra information to share with our viewers when we come back. We'll be back with more Have a Chat after the break. Don't go away. And we're back with more Have a Chat. We've been talking to our very interesting guest that we have joining us today, Farrell McCarthy, talking to us about Irish. St. Paddy's Day is just around the corner, and we wanted to touch base on the Irish history, and you're the man to talk to, from what I understand.
The man.
If you've watched the first segment so far, it's a lot of information, but so interesting, and you
Yes.
still have lots of great info to share.
So by becoming a member of the commission, then I realized that there was money available for festivals, family gatherings,
Celebrations of
celebrations of the Irish, and a lot of things in a way. So then my wife and I had went to two festivals Irish festivals in the States in 1979, 1980, around that time in a way. And so when I had come back, I had all kinds of brochures and ideas about putting on an Irish festival, but I never thought the opportunity would come up.
Okay.
So by being a member of the commission and seeing what money was available to those things, the association applied for and received a grant of $15,000 to put on Canada's first Irish festival on the Miramichi.
What a day that was.
And the other thing about it too, though, which I always consider this the highlight of all the mall in a way, it also gave us the opportunity to put up a Celtic cross on Meadow Island.
That's right.
So we had a committee, and I must say a great bunch of volunteers came together and
Embrace the whole idea.
Embrace the whole idea and help to do that. And so the first year it was such a massive success that we were even trying to get bed and breakfasts in the area. and we wrote to the Department of Tourism, I still have the letter, and see if they could help us out, because they were all over the place.
People flooding in from all over to attend this
all over
festival.
the States.
That's right.
And we advertised it very well. We even put an ad in the Irish Echo in New York. And
Now, what year was that?
What year?
Great minds think alike.
that was 1984.
Okay.
1984.
And I'll give an
Okay.
example how we got the County Tyrone pipe band. We brought a pipe band from New York, a real Irish pipe band.
Okay.
And I get the Irish Echo from New York, and there was 35 pipe bands in the St. Patrick's Day parade in New York City.
Amazing.
New York City has the largest parade in the world. There's something like
For the Irish Festival.
for St. Patrick's
Yeah,
Day.
St. Patrick's Day, yes.
And it's right on St. Patrick's Day down Fifth Avenue.
Wow.
There's 150,000 people take part in it. There were 36 Irish pipe bands, and there's about 2 million people watch it. And
Mercy.
but anyway, I noticed in the Irish Echo that they have a contest every year, and the County Tyrone Pipe Band was the #1 pipe band. So I wrote to them, and they agreed to come.
Imagine.
I mean, and they stayed all weekend. They just loved the area because they fit in with the Miramichi,
So
being
welcoming.
from
It was
Ireland
like being home.
and everything
Yes,
in a
our
way.
hospitality is second to none.
So anyway, it turned out to be a great event, and it's still going on. And
It's the largest festival in Canada, is it not?
yeah,
Irish festival.
yeah, and I think it's very important that the culture be a big part of it too. Like in a way,
Sure.
it has to be in a way, or and whatnot in a way. I must say a little bit about our association. The provincial association is still a provincial association, but we have broken up into chapters. We have 7 chapters throughout the province, and and these different chapters have put up Celtic crosses. Like we have one in Moncton, one by the waterfront there. There was one put up in Bathurst. There's a big one on Partridge Island in St. John that was put up in 1927 because there's 2,000 Irish famine victims buried there. And there was one in a couple other places in a way. And these Celtic crosses are so important because they don't only honor our ancestors, you know, the ones that died during the famine, and there's a graveyard really from Ireland, you know, right to Canada, all across the ocean. They were dying.
Yeah.
They died on islands where they landed, on Grosse Ile near Quebec City, where 100,000 came in the worst year of the famine, 1847. There were ships lined up 2 miles down that river from the island because that's the only place they could land. And they were dying on those ships. There was around 10,000 people are buried on Grosse Ile that died from the
horrific.
famine and
Horrific
whatnot.
numbers.
There was 100,000 came in that year alone to Grosse Ile. And of course, the ship that came in here was headed there, but there were so many sick on board. And also the Celtic Cross also pays tribute to the Irish that lived and went on in this province
For sure.
to help to build this province. And that's the reason why, you know, they have to be recognized more than they are. I mean, like, for example, I often think when they name the counties, this may get a little bit controversial, but that's okay.
It's okay. We're
Yeah.
a talk show that's
No.
open to controversy.
When they named the counties, you know, why did they not name 2 or 3 of them after counties in Ireland? County Tipperary, you know,
Yeah.
County Cork.
It'd be a
there's
wonderful idea.
32 counties, but we don't
Exactly.
have, and so forth in a way.
Now, are you going to have time to talk about this map because it's quite
Yeah.
elaborate and wonderfully done?
Okay, I must show one of the projects that we did during the bicentennial year, and was an early Irish history poster map of New Brunswick.
It's amazing,
It
Carol.
And,
is. So that's the history there, all the main
Well,
points.
it shows about 150 places in New Brunswick where the
Okay.
Irish originally settled.
Okay.
And they had to, and a lot of those places don't exist today because the Irish couldn't settle along the main rivers in most cases. And so then they had to settle way back in the woods
Oh,
and
Okay.
in places. So eventually,
And
you
that,
know.
what was that due to, if you don't mind me
Well,
asking?
it
They
was
couldn't,
prob-
and they had, was
well,
that?
well, first of all, when the Loyalists, especially the St. John River Valley, when the Loyalists came, they were, you know, being a British colony, and they were the favored,
Right.
and they got the grants along the river, and
So they were sort of shunned and pushed back.
well,
were they,
the
or-
Irish came a little bit before and after too in a way. So, but the Irish, you know, weren't treated quite the same, of course, in a way. So they had to settle back, Simiwagan Ridge, like in
Okay.
this area, and
Back in the day of segregation, you didn't mix.
yeah. Well, it wasn't necessarily quite that in a way, but
No?
they were the poorer group and the,
Okay.
you know, probably not.
more destitute.
Yeah. more destitute and
I
so
don't
forth.
suppose
and
you've
what.
ever been to Ireland, have you, Farrell?
About 8 times. Well, I
Just
used
a few.
well,
you think you died and went to heaven?
I used to take tours to Ireland, and then Marvin McCarthy and I
Marvin,
joined
the late
joined
Marvin
up.
McCarthy.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
he was a great one on planning tours, and I would help to get a lot of the members since I had
Grand.
a profile around the province due to the, the association and everything.
Beautiful. 8 trips over there.
Yeah, around that many, and but the thing about it, there's been a number of people around the province. They're still working hard to keep this going, and to develop projects. And matter of fact, we were quite honored when the present government appointed a Celtic Affairs minister.
That's right.
That's right.
And Lisa
Yeah.
Harris, that's
Yeah.
part of her portfolio.
Yes.
And so the government is, recognizing that, and we have a committee in Fredericton studying how we can,
Keep this culture alive and
to keep this
enhance
culture
it all.
alive. Because the way I look at it, a Canadian is a person who is made up of different cultures, like
Oh,
the
yes.
Acadians, the Irish, the Scottish, the Welsh, and then even all the immigrants that are coming in today. Eventually, their culture, will mesh in with.
Fit in.
And
It'll all come together.
that's what Canada is so great. We all get together and
I have a question.
yeah.
We're just talking a little bit about this, and my kids are getting older, and they're asking a lot about their heritage and different things like that. And with the internet being so accessible and being able to touch base with where different names come from, I'm going to throw out there Ancestry.ca is out there now, where you can start plugging in names. Has it been huge and monumental in you being able to put all of this information together? Or for people to be able to touch base and get the information according
Trace
to
their
who was.
ancestry?
Trace their ancestors. Yes, that's getting. No, we're not really into that because
Okay.
it's so many other things we deal with. But
Right.
But when you say about the Ancestry.ca, I think a lot of people, when they do that, and there's more and more doing it, they're going to find out that, especially like in New Brunswick, when we say everyone's a little bit Irish on St. Patrick's Day,
Right.
most of them do
You
have
think
some
that's-
Irish roots.
Because I know
Totally.
initially when I look back just a little bit back, I'm like, no, I'm not Irish. I'm Scottish and French Canadian. But now Ancestry.ca, you can do the DNA testing
Yeah.
and you get the little vial. And I'm like, I should probably do that and
Yeah, I
check
think you
and
should
see
do it.
because I'm thinking
because,
maybe.
because even a lot of the Acadians, like if you see names down
Yes.
down shore,
Right.
a lot of them are Irish names or Scottish, but they speak French, and that's one thing. When the Irish festival started, people thought it was only for people of Irish descent and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I said, look, we are putting it on, and we invite everybody to come.
For sure.
All
All backgrounds.
To celebrate your
Yeah,
ancestry,
to show
whatever it may be.
Yeah, what our culture is like in a way.
Okay.
So it doesn't
Appreciation.
matter. And as far as if people, there's people who have a lot of Irish roots in them that they speak French.
Of
Well,
course.
that's
Yes.
okay. That's
Yeah.
it's, it's,
All welcome.
yeah, they're all welcome.
And what is your
whatnot.
pin, may I ask? It's a beautiful
Well,
pin.
This is the pin of the Irish Canadian Culture Association of New Brunswick, and you may notice that our logo is like a half a maple leaf and a half a shamrock.
I see that. Well, I
Very
don't
neat.
see it really well. I don't. My glasses on, but
And you are the
I'm-
president, are you not?
Well, I was the founding president and the president for about 10 years,
That's a long
and
time.
it is still going on. But something that we're quite proud of is I'll just show you the first shamrock leaf that
Oh.
that
You
I
can
did.
put
Right
this?
away. Well, I mean, it was very amateur compared to what we have today. But
Right.
this is October in '83,
Mm-hmm.
and then this is what our shamrock leaf looks like today.
Wow,
This is the most recent one.
Very,
Right.
very well
And-
done.
and
Was that
exactly.
the
That's
cover?
your little news magazine
Yeah,
newsletter,
yeah,
correct?
And this is 62nd one that we have done. So there's
Okay.
a lot of history in these, in all
How many
these
people would
magazines.
So who's
receive
on the
this?
cover? Yeah.
Well, the membership receives it,
Okay.
and we usually put a few extra ones out. I
Okay.
was the editor, the first editor for 19 years,
Oh my.
and then there was Linda Evans, what was the editor, and Patricia O'Leary Coughlin, and the president editor now is Marilyn Driscoll in Fredericton.
So you must be a member of the association to receive this newsletter.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Although we usually print a number of more, like at the Irish Festival and different
Right,
events,
to
and
have.
people can pick them up.
That's
and,
right.
And
Farrell,
whatnot,
pardon me, how much time have you spent, like, you know, like how much of your time is spent delving into all of this Irish history, making contacts, keeping this going? Like, it's just your full-time hobby, correct?
Oh, it is.
And it takes up most of your life, right?
Well, I'm trying to slow. I mean,
Dial it
I
back a
slowed
little?
down a lot. But I remember putting the Irish Festival on. We would start in October and go right through, and I would take my whole March break off. You know, when I
Right.
think back at it, well, should I have? But anyway,
You did.
and then it would go into the, you know, way into all of July and so forth. You know.
I don't know
and so
anybody
Well,
more
because we have a
devoted.
summer festival, which is another big, huge.
Well, that's the one that began way
Yes,
back when.
Exactly.
Started
That's
this.
just it.
Another book?
So we have 2 more minutes left to our show,
Okay,
I'm afraid.
maybe
So
what
we're
I
going to
was-
touch base on.
Since we're speaking about the famine,
Right.
this is really a great book. It's called Flight from Famine
Flight from
by
Famine. Okay.
by Donald McKay and the Coming of the Irish to Canada.
Okay.
Now, the book that I really recommend is Paddy's Lament
Paddy's Lament.
by Thomas Gallagher. And I used to have a book booth at
And
the
that's
Irish
on the
Festival.
on the famine itself. It is.
It's
Okay.
really an easy
Detailed?
book to read. This
Oh, it
is
is.
an easy book to read
Okay.
too. But the Paddy's Lament by Thomas Gallagher, I used to have an Irish book at the festival
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, and I think I sold around 100 copies of that anyway.
Right.
But it's a great, I strongly recommend
Okay.
it for anyone who wants an easy read book and read about the famine.
P-A-D-D-Y.
And I think
What
And-
the big movement was to how most of them got over here in the first place.
And well, what went on in Ireland, what
Okay.
they went through.
What they went through
I mean,
specifically. A lot more
There were
details.
old cabins where if you open the door, the mother may have had a baby, you know, trying to suck on a dry, you know,
Yes.
breast,
Yeah.
It's a real
dying
eye-opener.
with kids around her.
Quite
Yeah.
horrific
It
stories,
was
I would
right.
imagine,
Yeah,
that were
but
there.
it's I think you have to read things like that to understand
Oh,
what
for
our
sure.
ancestors went
That's
And
through.
live
right.
through their time.
And then you have quite a bit of respect,
Right,
you know, for
Yeah.
them.
I
To
totally,
why
I would
we
like to
celebrate.
read that, for
Yeah.
sure.
You know,
And-
and
and
why
why
that
we-
we want to
and why
make
we
a big deal of
celebrate,
it
yeah.
and why we celebrate
Well, you
it.
certainly
exactly.
do, and I'm so proud of you. Look at this.
Yes,
this
we
man.
want to thank you so much, Farrell, for coming on today
Keep up
and
the
giving
good
us
work.
all this great, fantastic information.
And happy
Um,
St. Patty's.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of viewers out there that I'm sure that have gained a lot of information from this today.
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Come back
And
again.
a
Thank you
pleasure.
again so much for joining
Okay.
us, and thank you for watching. From all of us here at Have a Chat, have a great day.